Hi guys, and welcome to HSC Chemistry and video number 23 in the Chemical Monitoring and Management series. This one's looking at factors that affect ion concentration. So what we're really talking about in this particular video is TDS, total dissolved solids. And the important thing about total dissolved solids is that there are a lot of different sources and a few different types as well that we need to have a look at that can affect the quality of the water. One of the most important is the nature of the rain. We know that rain is always slightly acidic as a consequence of the presence of carbon dioxide, but under certain circumstances that rain can be considerably acidic if there are SOx or NOx that have been released and combined with the water to produce stronger acids than carbonic acid. So the nature of the rain itself can be an important factor which contributes to the actual concentration of ions. And there's a couple of reasons for this. The first thing is that any minerals that are present in the underlying rocks or in the soils that are part of the pathway from the rain to the water body can be picked up, reacted, dissolved along the way. The more acidic the rainwater, the more likely that is to happen, particularly with certain types of ions that can cause problems. Such as calcium and magnesium that contribute to hard water. So different types of rain with different pHs can affect the solubility of different minerals that are present in these pathways from where the rain is falling across the surface into the water body. So this pathway of flow of water is what we're basically looking at, and particularly the underlying rocks and minerals that make up those rocks. So the thing with the rain is that as the acid rain concentration increases, so there are certain types of ions that are more likely to be leached along this pathway. And some of those important ones I've listed here for you: calcium ions, magnesium ions, and also iron. And another thing that affects it is the rate. Okay, so very heavy rains are going to put a lot more water down. They're more likely to leach those important minerals out of the soils and take them into the water bodies. So by the same token, if the rain continues for some time, then they may actually wash them through the water body and down into the ocean. So there's sort of two considerations here. One, light rain may just sit on the surface. Slightly heavier rain is actually going to wash those minerals into the water body. A really heavy rain can cause great dilution and can actually counter those effects. So some of the important factors that affect ion concentrations or total dissolved solids in our waterways: rate of evaporation from the water body. So obviously if it's a very deep water body, then the rate of evaporation rate can be lower. Where it's very shallow, the water warms up more quickly, and so the evaporation rate can often be much higher. So the rate of evaporation obviously is going to affect that, because the more water evaporates, the lower the volume, the more concentrated those ions become. So increase in evaporation means an increase in concentration of ions as the volume of water decreases. Some of the human activities can also impact on this process. So things like land clearing and deforestation expose the soil, and the forest, the trees don't have the chance to hold that soil together, bind it together. So a lot of it is then washed away, particularly in heavy rain, into the water bodies. Different agricultural practices, particularly irrigation, and irrigation that may come from aquifers or underground wells, may also already have levels of salinity within them. So dissolved solids may already be part of that water that's coming up, and if that's going then onto the land and then that's being washed away, then you've got a bigger problem than if it's just fresh water that's being used for irrigation. Fertilizers that we talked about before, things like eutrophication, is a very important effect that occurs when we have particularly nitrates and phosphates present in our fertilizers, which then wash into the waterways and encourage the growth of things like algae and lead to algal blooms. The extent of discharge of waste from industry, so sometimes that can just be thermal pollution if hot water is being released into the waterway, but it can also be sometimes heavy metals, sometimes other water that's been used for cooling processes, that's been used for cleaning purposes, can have other types of minerals present in them as well. The discharge of effluent, whether it's treated or untreated sewage, can often be a major problem, both human waste and animal waste. And even things like rotting vegetation can also cause problems in changing the salinity of the water body. And any leaching that may occur from rubbish dumps, even things like stormwater runoff, can be another problem. And we're very close to Kimbriki Tip, and so there's a lot of waste that's being dumped in a big landfill area there. When it rains, if all of that stuff isn't contained, then the rain can take some of those disposed goods and leach them into the water bodies below. So when you're looking at ions in natural waters, you need to think about agriculture. You need to think about things like addition of fertilizers and what effect they are going to have. You need to think about irrigation, and you need to think about things like livestock. What's happening? Sheep, cows, are they visiting the waterways? Is their waste contributing to a lowering of the quality of water? Those sorts of things. In industry, you're looking at water for cooling, you're looking at water for cleaning, and we need to think about, and sometimes water is actually involved in the chemical processing. So you need to think about all of these things and what they may be adding to any water bodies, whether they've got evaporating ponds nearby, whether they've got tanks that are allowing the water to stabilize in terms of its temperature before being released. These are all going to affect the types of things that are being added to the waterways. And residentially, we've got human wastewater, we've got grey water, the sort of water that can come from, say, washing machines. Where does that go? Is that being recycled? Is it being used to water your plants, or is it just going straight down the drain? And things like stormwater runoff, and so on. Salinity is a very important concept that relates to water quality, and it's measured in total dissolved solids, and it's one of those things that we need to keep an eye on, not only for, as we've talked about before, the quality of water that we want to drink, but also for the general quality of water that we want to use for different purposes. Thanks for watching.